Hi, it's Ryan from Knights Around a Table. I've got a quick little unboxing for you with this game called They Who Were Eight, which is a kind of dramatic, poetic title. I don't think, though, you'll find a whole lot of coverage about this game. It's a few years old. And how did it come into my hands? Well, let me tell you. There's a bit of a story to it, which I will tell you while I am cracking the shrink on it. So a friend of mine is named Tom, and Tom does tech support, and he's starting up a tech support company, kind of company that will test your software and write, bug reports for you and help you make it bug free. And Tom, in order to get jobs from different people who would use his new company's services, Tom wanted a use case. So Tom really likes games. So what he did was he got some government funding for some interns, some people who were freshly out of school who had their computer science degrees. And he said, let's pick a small game. And this is the one that they picked. So let's pick a board game and we'll make a digital version of it. And then we'll use that digital version of a board game to show how we logged bugs and how we tested it and how we got it, A-OK, hunky-dory. And so this is the game that they picked. And this is by a creator called Todd Sanders. What's neat about this is that Todd Sanders, who is, I believe, a graphic designer, designed the game and drew all the pictures for it. So he's the graphic designer and the illustrator, which is a pretty rare combination, I think. So this is a little card game. I don't know what I'll find inside, but I was interested to find on the back that his company's called Ludi Creations. I believe that's his company, or else he was published by that company. I'm not too sure, I haven't looked into it. But, Board Game Geek is your friend in that regard. I was surprised to see Paul Grogan's Gaming Rules logo on the back. I'm wondering why. I think probably because Todd Sanders commissioned Paul to do the rule book, which is part of Paul's whole board game related hustle. Oh, and if you haven't seen the video of Paul and myself playing Dead Reckoning together with that game's creator, John D. Clare, go check that out. It's pretty cool. I'll throw a link up there. So if you click the eye, it'll take you, which side? This side. It'll take you directly to that video. Right, so let's crack into this. There's a very graphic designy style. Like, you can tell that the creator is into graphic design. First, we have these bubbles that you may recognize from something like Viticulture. It's kind of neat when they're clear and you put them on things, they magnify the things that they put on. But there's yellow and purpley looking markers. And a deck of cards. If I had to estimate how many cards are in that stack, I would say it's probably about like 50,000 cards. Hard to tell, but if it was a jelly bean guessing contest, I think I'd be pretty close. And an instruction booklet, possibly by Paul Grogan. We're not too sure. What's the hallmark of a Paul Grogan rulebook? What is his directorial, like Hitchcock or Spielberg? They all have their tells. How can you tell this is a Paul Grogan rulebook? I don't know. Maybe he's in the credits. Oh, let me see. Illustration. Oh yes, I did it. Rulebook editing, Paul Grogan. I cracked the case. Paul Grogan and others. He's not the only one. So what do I know about this game? As usual, precious little, except I'll tell you the couple things that I did pick up when Tom asked me to be involved with, what I did was I was on a call with these interns that he had hired, and I was dispensing pearls of wisdom that I've accumulated over my many years developing video games. Pearls of wisdom including comment your code, and so I just dole that out like Confucius, and the interns would say, oh yes, wise master, that's a great idea. So we'll open the cards in just a second. We also have some cardboard here. I know that the one interesting thing is that the designer is into poetry, and he has mixed in concepts of folklore and poetry into this game, which is about gods, so that when you play the cards in certain ways, the headers will sort of read like poetry, or wants them to sound like poetry. And it poses an interesting I guess UI UX problem for Tom and his team, because that's when you're doing a digital version of a game, a board game or a card game, you want it to be as barrierless as possible, right? As smooth and free-flowing as possible, and you don't want anything to get in the way. And the poetry is arguably a dispensable component of the game, right? So then it's like, okay, how do we get the poetry into the game but not have it take up a lot of screen estate, or you know, what do we do with the poetry? So their ultimate solution was, I think they have a toggle key so you can show the poetry aspects or hide. So that was what they came up with. Now, I haven't played the final version of the game that they came up with, but hopefully my camera's pulled in enough that you can see what these tiles look like. Kasana, who was loved. See, it's very poetic. Anatok, the unseeing. And I don't know if these are real gods or if these are an invention of the designer. Before a play of your choice chooses a card to play, shuffle all cards held by the players and then deal with them all again. So, you know, typical stuff that you'll see on cards doing things in card games. I won't punch all of these out. But Bold Endemona, what kind of game is it? Why don't we talk about what kind of game it is? Here's what I know. What I know is that Todd paid for the inside of the box to be printed, which you don't see there that often. But what I know is that you have cards that you're playing, and you're playing them to your left and right, and I believe that they impact or daisy chain off of the cards that other people are playing to their left and right on either side of you. And it's one of these ones with a scoring system where you, I think, you can't be the best at the game, and you can't be the worst at the game because you're penalized, I believe, for scoring at either end. If your gods are really crappy and suck, or if they're really exalted and too amazing, you get penalized. And when you're trying to strike a balance and go right in the middle of those two extremes. So here's what some of the cards look like. Very graphic designing, and they remind me of, you know, maybe film posters, avant-garde film posters from the 60s or something. The birth of someone. The conflict of blah. The decision of blah. Colors, I don't know what the colors mean because I've never played the game. The gifting of flah. The trickery of, so I think, you know, the trickery of Anatok the unseeing. The weakness of Kasana, who was loved. So as you play these cards, sort of a folklore-y kind of pseudo quasi story emerges as you're laying these things down. We'll get a few more clues about how these things get laid out if we look, I think, at this diagram that Paul and company have put in the rulebook for us, like this. See, so it looks like there is probably one of the stiff cards in the middle, and then the god cards on either side. So it shows for 2 players, 3 players, 4 players. This is a 2 to 4 player game, and I think that is the extent of what I can tell you about They Who Were 8. If you've played it, let me know. I think this is a pretty deep cut, and I don't think I'm going to find too many of you who know about this or who have played it. But if you have played it, that's amazing that you found this video somehow. If you're Todd Sanders, that makes sense, because maybe you have like a Google vanity search on and you're looking for anybody who mentions your games. But if you're not Todd and you have played this game, please tell me, what did you think of it? Or if you've heard about it and you've decided to pick it up or decided to pass, let me know either way. Or even better, more likely, if you want to use the comments below to tell me what is your favorite 2 to 4 player, mostly cards only game, you can tell me that in the comments below. But hold on, I'll reciprocate. Let me think of my 2 to 4 player, well, you know, it's going to be something like Roll for the Galaxy, right? It's a cards only 2 to 4 player game. That'll probably be my pick for favorite. Recently though, I've really been enjoying Raise Arcana, which, as you'll recall from an earlier video, was gifted to me by DM Explains. Not coincidentally, they're by the same designer, Tom Lehman. But my family and I, if you saw our camping video where we were giving, Cheryl was talking about her favorite games to take camping, and I felt like a little bit of a fraud during that video because we didn't play any of those games. Like, not a single one. We spent every single night camping playing Raise Arcana because the kids really liked it and we were all really enjoying it. So that's really come in the front of my, what do you say, the front of my consciousness. It's in my lobes, that game. So if you haven't played it, try that one out. But let me know what your favorite is down in the comments. Thank you very much for watching this. If you want to tell me in person, of course, you can join me in the Discord server where we talk about board games all the time. And I ain't just whistling Dixie, because we sure are. If you jump in there, mostly Eastern Standard Time, but there are people from all around the world in the Discord server, and they'll be talking about board games till they're blue in the text. That's a saying. But join us there and hang out with us. Thanks so much for watching this one. Did you just watch that whole thing? Oh, hey, to 100% this video, click the badge to subscribe, and then click the bell to get notifications when I've got new stuff.